Go ahead, Lawrence. Just unmute yourself.
Good morning, everybody. And we are rocking and rolling. So, Friday, May 12th, the slaughterhouse of failure is not in our destiny. We shall persevere until we succeed. Augmandino, modified, that's our mantra. We shall persevere until we succeed, whatever we do in life. Today is also, this weekend is Mother's Day weekend, but in fact, I just want to give a special shout out. It's not Mother's Day today or this week. Mother's Day is every single day. Women are special people. And I think we should really acknowledge the incredible work that a mother does. So to all the moms out there, it's a very special weekend, and we acknowledge you and respect you and wish you a really, really good year to follow every single day. So today we've chosen the motivations to get our teams working. And there are several ways of looking at how to motivate ourselves and our teams and each individual, because we're all different. Everybody is different. We're like an orchestra, you know, somebody's a violinist and somebody's a pianist and somebody's a oboe player or whatever. And we've got to try and synchronize the effort into becoming a successful team working forward. But each person has his or her own trigger points, which could be a motivation for them. So the three motivators that are traditionally looked at are achievement, affiliation, or power. And I think we could interpret these as well. In the old way, it was a carrot or a stick. But we're going to go into some of this together now, Dan.
Yeah, New Skin Pharmanex does a great job of adding in some trips and things like that as motivators. But that's coming from the corporate side of things, and we need to be looking at this from our own organizational view. And sometimes, the corporate motivators maybe won't align with you or your team or anyone on your team or a few people on your team. So you need to figure out within your own teams, within your own organizations, what the motivators are. You need to know what your motivators are. What are you motivated by first and foremost? Because if you're going to motivate others, you need to know what motivates you first and foremost, and then you try to figure out what motivates the others on your team. So it turns out, as Lauren said, that each one of us is primarily triggered by one of three motivators, whether it be achievement, affiliation, or power. And this is part of what is called the motivation theory, developed by David McClellan back in 1961. And then there was a book that came out, in the recent past called Drive by Daniel Pink, where he explored this in a little bit more detail. So the idea is to better understand what motivates someone to perform. So what motivates you to perform? What motivates others on your team to perform? It could be one of these things. It could be several of these things kind of combined into one. They could be a combination of these factors, but there is one in particular that should present itself as the primary driver. So when I was in medical device sales, I was on a team on my own. I was a self-starter. I got up, did what I needed to do. I didn't work well on a team because I was highly motivated, and most other folks just didn't have my same motivation level for what my motivators were at the time, and they've changed over time. But some people will join your organization because they want to be part of a team, right? And that's the affiliation. Some will want accolades. Some will be driven by being recognized. That's achievement. And then others will be motivated by that power piece, the ability to lead others. Those are the people that you want to identify as leaders within your organization. And power doesn't have to be a negative thing. It can be a positive thing. It's just all in how it's used, right? So it's important to recognize also that these motivators are learned behaviors. Now, you're not born with any of these. They're not innate. You develop a primary motivation based on your life experiences and the events that you've been exposed to, right? And you can define those in other team members by watching what they're doing, talking to them, having conversations with them about what their motivators are. So then you want to make a pretty good guess about what someone's primary motivation is from knowing their past experiences and from observation. And then you'll be able to put them into one of these three buckets and figure out how to motivate them properly.
So there's also another way to look at motivation. And that is through awareness of fear of something that person may have. So, for example, FOMO, fear of missing out. If a person is, afraid of missing out, he may want to strive to be among the leadership or be in a successful group because he doesn't want to miss out. He or she's afraid of missing out. So, I want to be part of the success and glory, and motivation is the fear of missing out. That's one of them. We talk about pains, we talk about what are the pains that we look for in the person. And we say time. Well, time is the most precious thing we have. And then we say, well, would you like to have more time to do whatever it is that we mentioned, And they say, no, I don't have the time to do it. I'm sorry, you're facing that limitation in your life. Well, if you're faced with a limitation, the first thing you want to do is fix the problem. If you're limited in time, well, let's fix it. How can I get more time? So that's a motivator. We say money. Money's a motivator too. Say, well, let's go to Paris for the week. Oh, I don't have the money to do that. Oh, I'm so sorry you can't do that. That you're financially not at peace you don't have peace of mind financially. That's a motivator too. Say, well, my goodness, that's a limitation I have. I've got to get over that. I've got to push myself to get better at it. Stress. I mean, do you get 8 hours of restful sleep every night? What would you like your life to be like? That's a motivator too, because, we all have a life, and some of us may have a lot of money, but we're still stressed because whatever it is that worries us. Stress is one of the biggest problems that people have because they don't understand that it's simply not being in control. Not being in control is what causes stress. Not control of your time, control of your money, control of your situation, control of your kids, your own life, politics, whatever it is. So these are, in my opinion, major pains that we all have: time, money, and stress. And we can use those as motivators to get people to really come out of the box and take a deep dive into their lives and say, well, what should I do better? Why am I not making so much money? Why am I not so happy? What is it that's holding me back? And it's when we do that we can guide people to find their own levels of achievement, affiliation, and power. Because we often want to do things for people. We want to help people in a way which we see, but it may not be the way that they see themselves or the way that they want to be seen. People may not want to be, a leader. They may not want to do that. That's not who they are. But we've got to find the way to encourage people for them to find their own speed and comfort of where they want to be. We can't push ropes.
Yeah, and a couple of the things that you talked about there could fit into, one of those three buckets. I think any motivator can probably fit into one of those three buckets. So if you're talking about money, that could be fit in the power bucket, right? If you're talking about money, that could be in the achievement bucket. If you're talking about time, that's another power motivator, right? You're getting your time back. You're spending time the way that you want to spend your time. So they all kind of fit into those same buckets. It doesn't really matter what you're talking about, time, energy, or time or money or whatever. But what you need to realize also is that if you misdiagnose somebody's motivators and put them into a bucket that is completely different from what their true primary motivator is, you can actually stress them. So as your leader, it's your job to watch and observe your team and learn what motivates them as individuals, and then find a way to compensate them for those their achievements along those lines. But if you try to reward someone for something that doesn't motivate them, you actually can stress them out and take a productivity hit, right? So if somebody's motivator is, to be included in that affiliation bucket, and you misinterpret their motivation as power, and you're motivating them from that standpoint, you can actually demotivate them and reduce their productivity because they're stressed in that environment, right? So you need to be careful of that, not misdiagnosing what their motivators are. And Martin, I believe, is on this call, so he's going to understand this this terminology. There's a saying in England, horses for courses. And that just means that you want to run the right horse on the right course. Some horses like mud, some horses like grass, and they perform better on those surfaces. So you need to think about what kind of a track you fit your team members on to get the best results out of them, right? What are their motivators? Are you going to put somebody who likes to work alone and is self-motivated, the power bucket, on an affiliation, in an affiliation bucket, and put him on a team where he's not going to thrive and he may demotivate others? That's not going to work. So you need to be very cognizant of what the motivators are for both yourself and your team members.
But I think this is the whole crux of everything, comes down to understanding who we're talking with. Because if we don't understand who we're talking with, then we've missed the point. That's why we've got to watch and listen and ask questions. Who is it that we are working with? Is it like, same thing in playing football, soccer, or, is it somebody who's a fast runner? He's a wing. It's no use putting him right in the beginning and making him well, in rugby anyway, forward. So we've got to find the right peg for the right hole, but they have to feel that they are happy in that. We cannot say to somebody who's a fast runner, we want you to be a blocker just because he's a fast runner. So he's going to want to be a blocker because that's where he's comfortable, or he's comfortable being, a wing, or, a fast runner on it. So the psychology of who we work with is dependent on how well we understand who they are and how well and who we are. How do we fit in with this? Are we trying to drive people into something that they're not? Are we trying to make people somebody that they don't feel comfortable? Or are we just a facilitator? And when I say just, it's not just. A facilitator is somebody who really understands who's who and who will help that person achieve his or her goals. And it's important that we understand that. We understand the people. So watching and listening is important. And as you say, some people are not good for being a team player. They're not. So don't try and force somebody to be a team player, or try and force someone to be a leader if they're not. They will rise to the occasion if that motivation is there. And that motivation could be, the pain of being left behind or the pain of not being recognized. Whatever those pains are, the person must find his or her own speed. And we can then encourage them to go faster in their own lane of where they're comfortable. Otherwise, we have the round peg in the square, the square peg in a round hole, which won't work anyway. Or it's trying to make a rabbit climb a tree. Doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm not motivated by, one of the things New Skin does great is they have these rewards that you can earn through performance, and that's used as a motivator, right? To help people hit their goals. It's used as a motivator, like I said, but that particularly for me doesn't really motivate me. I don't care about rewards. I don't care about winning awards. It's more for me about that personal achievement, hitting that level of personal achievement for myself. I'm not doing it for anybody else. I'm not doing it to be recognized. That's not what drives me. What drives me is just being the absolute best that I can be. And as a leader, it's important to figure out which one of these three motivators, achievement, affiliation, or power, applies to each and every one of your team members, and then begin to find ways to help them attain their maximum potential by playing to these strengths. This is about leading people. This is about getting the most out of them, helping them reach their full potential, motivating them to be the absolute best that they can be, right? And that's what motivates me now, is helping others become the best versions of themselves. So that's, I've gone from a power motivator to more of an affiliation motivator in the last 5 years, because before I was a little bit more about myself. I just went out and did what I needed to do to be successful. And I've done that very successfully, but now it's more about helping others achieve what they maybe didn't think that they could achieve, or they knew they could achieve it, they just didn't know how to achieve it. So how do we help each and every one of you on this call become the best version of yourselves? And how do we motivate each and every one of you to then in turn motivate others on your team?
You just said something, Dan, that caught my attention about what interests you and what interests me. I was in Colombia this weekend, and there were, 1,500, maybe 2,000 people in the event, the New Skin event. And it was a phenomenal success. Afterwards, there was a training, and I went to the training, one of the leaders, and they brought up the subject of trailblazer. Now, I've looked at this trailblazer, and I didn't give it 30 seconds of attention, not 30 seconds. But oh my goodness, I believe there's a Gucci bag in there or something like that. And all the people that were listening to this trailblazer stuff, their ears perked up. They suddenly were interested. How many points is it? I need 60 points to get a Gucci bag or whatever it was. And I thought, why would anybody be interested in that? But they were all interested. And they're the small successes that lead to the big ones. Sometimes we talk about the bigger picture. What do you want? Okay, I want a big house. That's fine. But what can I do for you tomorrow, this week, this month? Would you be happy if you got, a Gucci bag in the next 2 months? How much is a Gucci bag? I don't know, $5,000, $3,000. I don't even know what it is. But it's these motivators that we sometimes don't even think about from our point of view. It's the same as the trips. I remember the first trip I ever won was earned was a Ruby trip. And I said, I don't have time for that stuff. I actually said that because I didn't even know what it was. They said, you've earned a trip. I don't have time for that, man. I'm too busy. And it wasn't a motivator for me until I saw the bigger picture. And I said, wow, I could get all my team to go on that. And then together we go. yay, that's a good motivation for me. But for me to win it by myself, I don't care about it. I can go anytime I want. So we have to understand who we talk to, and we understand who they are and what interests them to motivate them. It's not about us.
Yeah, I think you need to be careful, with a scenario like that, with how you interpret that, the Gucci bag reward. Because is it about the Gucci bag, or is it about becoming the best version of yourself to win that award? Or is it about the actual award? That's what you need to be careful of, because it may not be the actual reward itself. It may just be, that's an affiliation motivator, right? You're affiliating with all these people that are trying to win that bag, right? Or it could be a power, or it could be a power motivator, to show people that they're the best. They were able to hit those points and win that award.
Right.
So, or it could be the achievement. So you need to figure out what part of that motivator, what part of that carrot is what really is motivating that person, right? Otherwise, you could misinterpret it and actually demotivate them. Martin put a great comment in the chat here. When we were talking about horses for courses. Tennis players, they play on clay, grass, or asphalt. Some are good on clay, some are good at grass, some are good on asphalt. Some of them, they can't do all three a lot of times. Whatever the minutia of how that ball hits, spins, travels, things like that, they just don't play well on those surfaces. And so it's the same for us. I don't play well sometimes in a team environment. I'm more in an individual environment. Or, my motivation is helping other people. It may not be helping myself, but through helping other people, I'm helping myself. So, what is that carrot? What's the motivator behind that carrot? Because it may not be the carrot. So, so it's really just about finding out what those motivators are for each and every one of us. And if you know what your motivator is, share that with your team leader. Share that with the rest of your group so they know how to keep you motivated, right? Don't keep it bundled up and don't tell people what motivates you. Let people know what motivates you, and then they can help motivate you, because there's going to be days when you're not motivated. And that's when discipline and consistency come in, right? And others on your team can help you with that discipline and consistency if they know your motivators.
By the way, I think the bag wasn't Gucci, it was Louis Vuitton. Just for the record.
Oh, then I got to change exactly what I said for the last 3 minutes.
No, but it's right. We've got a team is about everybody sharing almost everything. I mean, you share the locker room. You're getting pretty intimate when you're sharing the locker room. So if you're a team, a sports team, and you're all pushing and trying to get to that final result, our teams are in a similar way. We're all humans, we're all vulnerable, we've all got our strengths and challenges. And I think if we all understand, and also something that I would love is feedback. Say, listen, somebody says to me, look, you rambled on about something that was irrelevant. Oh, thank you. It's important that we also know from everybody in our team how we're doing. Are we doing okay? Are we not doing okay? How can we be better? Because we are de facto, in some way, a team leader, if we want to call it that. Whether we have followers or not will depend on how well we listen and how well we execute our coordination of everybody's talent. So I think it's important that it's a two-way street. We must be motivated too. We need the feedback for that. We've got 2 minutes left, Dan. I don't know if you've got anything else or if you want to add it. Anybody open it up?
See if we motivated anybody to share some experiences here this morning.
Anybody got anything to say?
All right.
Nothing?
Here comes Jim. Jim's coming off mute.
I just can't help myself.
I love it.
Part of it's because, you know, I take notes while you guys write this. So I really put a lot of interest in what you're saying. I mean, I try to learn from you every week. And honestly, there's always something to learn from you too. So thank you for that. This topic could be considered one of the biggest topics in our business platform because we work with an army of volunteers. Nobody has to do anything. And in a company, in a business, people are instructed exactly what they have to do. And if they don't do it, they lose their job. Here, your upside is so much bigger than you could ever have in a job. But then it can also be nothing, depending on what you decide to do with this opportunity. And as people, everybody that's on this call is a leader in this business. They're showing it by being on this call. And so this learning experience allows us to all go home today and ask ourselves, what motivates me? Let me think about what really motivates me. And then you're going to have your key players, and it's going to take some thought to figure out, am I treating them correctly? Am I understanding them well? Should I have a discussion with them? And, you know, the best thing you can have is transparency with your team members, you know, and, you know, from that, you'll be able to develop a closer relationship, a better understanding of each other, and then a team that really fits together like this. And that's when you put your backs together and go to war.
Yeah. You really need to know your team members, you know, so if you don't know some of your team members that well, take 10 or 15 minutes, give them a call, show some interest, some genuine interest, you know, find out about their family, find out about their husband, find out, do they have any pets? You know, that caring is showing them that you truly care about who they are. You know, this happened to me just the other day, and I realized, you know, afterwards, I was like, you know what? I didn't know anything about this guy. I never asked him about his family. I never asked him about his kids. I never, you know, I didn't get close to him. And it's like, who wants to be part of a team where you're not, you know, people don't care about you? Now, he wasn't, you know, showing to me the right signals that he really wanted to be part of the team, but, you know, it may have been something that I did. Maybe I didn't motivate him by, you know, with inclusiveness. Right. And really showing him that I cared about who he was as a person, as being part of the team. And it kind of made me feel bad because I was like, you know, all it would have been was something very simple, and it could have turned the tides. Not just for me, but for him and for our team and, you know, everything else.
Dan, so much of that, you know, is reflective of who we are as individuals. Like for me, I'm just very personal, you know, so I know just about everything. I know all the kids' names and everything of the primary team members. We're really very close. So for someone like me, it would be, you know, redundant to ask them again, you know, about their kids' names. But what I could do is take all of that closeness and knowledge and now say, hey, let's have a constructive conversation about what you want to achieve before the end of the year. What's going to motivate you? What can I do to help you with those motivations? You know,
100%.
There's something that one of the things that I've always done is I've asked the person and I'm talking to, tell me who you are in 5 words, not 50 words, 5 words. Tell me who you are. And then they start about, I'm empathetic, I'm, you know, loving and caring. Then you know who that is. Or someone says, I'm driven, I'm motivated, I'm disciplined. You get to understand who it is, but you got to ask the questions. You got to see who you're talking to. Tell me who you are in 5 words. And then what do you want? Specifically. Then that is, in my opinion, one of the ways to really understand more quickly who we're talking to and what they want.
So I'm going to let everybody in on a little secret quick. I met Lawrence about 5 years ago. And to this day, every time I call him, he picks up on the phone and says, Michael, because he has me in his phone as Michael Cook - Dan Burke.
Oh, you funny, man. Joe Scalia's got his hand up.
Joe, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, great call, guys. The word motive means to move, Latin. Emotions are what move people. And what I'm thinking about is the beginning of one of Napoleon Hill's courses. He says you have absolutely no right to ask somebody to do something until you have the motive as to why they will do it. So it's like starting with why and understanding what makes a person tick. Very important for the teamwork. Thank you so much for a great call, guys. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Hey, thanks, Joe. Martin, you've got your hand up?
By accident, I moved my phone in the wrong way, but thank you for including me. This was actually a great call. And it's a subject for another time. You touched on it a couple of weeks ago, but once you've determined who this person is, what you then need to make sure is that you communicate with them according to that profile. Because you need to be communicating on that same wavelength. If you're on a different wavelength, they won't receive the transmission.
That's right, 100%. Thank you. Well, thanks, everybody. Anybody got it else? Otherwise, thank you so much, everybody, for being on the call. Appreciate it. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
Don't forget that. And thanks, everybody, for being on the call. Blessings to everybody.
Great
All
call.
right,
Thank
everybody, have a great
Thank
weekend.
you.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you, guys.
Good weekend to everyone.
Great call. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
all.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Guys.